Hello, everybody, and
hello.
welcome to Coffee Class with Young Screenwriters. We are an online community and resource for up-and-coming screenwriters, and today we are breaking down the story in a doc, our first ever doc. That's exciting.
That is exciting. And I know I ask you this every week, and it's because I can't. My math is so bad. How many have we done?
It's like 40 something. 40
something. Wow.
I had it.
So
it's in the title of the video, so everyone else knows.
We were due for a doc.
We were
overdue.
We were indeed. And right. I think this was a good one to start with.
Good, because originally
at the end of the day, it has all the elements of story, and that hook people. And it's presented in the same way. You have to establish your protagonist, what their flaw is, what their objective is. Like, no, but seriously, like all
I know, but I think I'm done. Yeah, Adam, thank you. Yes. Yeah. And by the way, Alexie, I want to see if you're going to take back. Originally, I think your thought on this before you saw it was guy climbs on a rock. Wasn't that your rather harsh opinion?
My statement was Adam, rock climbing man.
No,
it was rock climbing man. And it was you decided to make it derogatory.
That's the equivalent of calling Juno pregnant white girl.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, thank you. Yes. Yeah. And I think it was guy climbs on a rock. I think that was kind of your, one line.
That is what he did. That would not be an inaccurate statement.
Okay.
At the end of the day, you can reduce everything to a caricature, no matter how elevated or ambitious or inspiring. You can always reduce everything down into the slime of reduction and simply, I don't know. You can drag anything that aspires to connect, and
even Winter's Bone. I think you could.
You can drag into the mud, into nothingness. You can drag anything down.
Try to minimize that one. Actually, I know how you do it.
But we won't. But yeah. So, but Alexie, I think I interrupted you. Were you doing your very formal opening when I
forgot to say our names, but I realized that they're on the screen. So
on the screen,
right?
That's the advantage of them.
And we know who we are. Yeah.
We know who we are. That is true. That we know that.
Well, I love the comments now. What?
Well, in one sense, we know who we are, but do we?
Yeah, a little bit, kind of. Bad boy climbs rock. That's right. Bad boy climbs rock. I like that.
Yeah.
He's kind of more.
They got married.
Rock
they
stars.
did.
You said that.
They got married.
Yeah, they got married. Yeah.
He's still alive, amazingly.
I know.
He's still alive.
I was stressed.
Were you
stressed watching it, so I had to check. And then once I knew he was alive, I was like,
you shouldn't have done that.
I needed to know.
Oh my God, that's funny.
But yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You want to know something?
Spears comment. Yeah. What?
Oh yeah. You want to know something funny though? I looked this one up. You know how his mom was saying yeah, his dad sucked, and then the son was kind of like, yeah, my mom sucked, and all that. But then I looked it up on Wikipedia, and after he did this, his mom became the oldest person to climb that mountain, El Capitan or whatever it is.
Are you sure his mom?
Yeah, she did it at 66. I assume with a rope, but she became. She didn't free climb. No. No, but she. Yeah, but after he did it, she was like, "Oh, okay," and she went and did it, and I'm like, "Wow."
Yeah. So it runs in the family a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious to know. Should we jump into it? Should I jump into the?
Yeah.
And Adam, you're absolutely right. I mean, pardon me. What? Yeah.
No, go for it.
Okay, so Free Solo. As Alexie said, this is our first doc. I was eager to do a doc. I love this film. At the risk of sounding a little tiny bit nerdy, I will admit that I've also read Alex's biography, which is weird. Excuse me. The film won an Oscar. Adam hit it right on the head. All the elements of story here, but how they got into them, and Jimmy Chin, the director's approach to how he's telling the story, I think is really interesting. There are a few things that you should know about documentary filmmaking. And my buddy Sam Pollard, who we should have on sometime because he's a great doc filmmaker. He's got I'm blanking. I can't believe I'm blanking. He's got a new doc out now that got a lot of critical acclaim. Just came out a few weeks ago. I'll think of it and get back to you. Sam Pollard. And Sam and I were discussing this film and other doc films. He's a great friend. He's a great guy. He's a great filmmaker. He also is a great editor. He edits a lot of Spike Lee's films. And Sam was explaining to me that with a doc film, because you don't have the benefit of having a script and a roadmap, because you don't know where you're going, you go out in the field and you start shooting, and you shoot and shoot and shoot. You know the world, and you kind of know what you want, but you have no idea what you're going to get. You have no idea what the beginning, middle, and end are. And he explained to me that that's why you shoot so much film on a doc, because you're finding the film as you go. And he said, and what you do is you work in reverse. Excuse me. And by that, I mean, you edit a story with all the footage you've shot. Now, again, hopefully, as you've been shooting, you've found somewhere in all that footage a film. But documentary works almost in reverse fashion to narrative film storytelling. You shoot as much as you can, then you go back and you find the movie, or you would actually be almost going back and finding the script or even beat sheet. Works in reverse. So Jimmy Chin, I think, he was also an outdoorsman and a climber and a National Geographic filmmaker. He knew the world. He knew Alex. So let's jump into what how it breaks down. We meet Alex right up front. We meet Alex, and of course, we're even introduced to El Capitan in the first couple minutes, in the first 4 or 5 minutes of the film. So we meet our protagonist and his objective. And Jimmy Chin had some wonderful things going for him with this, because all you have to do is look at the mountain and know that it's unattainable. So, you say, there's a mountain I want to climb, and then he cuts back to a master wide of El Capitan. You go, you can't do that. So already we're off to a good start, because we have a protagonist who has an objective, and the objective is unattainable. It's like chasing a man-eating shark. You can't get it. You're going to die. There are a couple other variables that I think, particularly with docs that work, that if you're so fortunate to have, I would even go as far as say you must have a protagonist who's consumed by his or her objective. And Alex is perfectly designed. I mean, he's myopic. He thinks of nothing but climbing. This is all there is in his life, which also happens to be his flaw, is that he doesn't interact with people. He doesn't have social skills. So that's a flaw. All of this, I mean, you almost couldn't build a better protagonist than Alex. He's an objective. He's absolutely passionate about his objective, and he's got a great flaw. And he also has, and we still learn in the first 17 pages or so, 17 minutes or so, we learn of his inner need. And that's when we meet Sani, S-A-N-N-I, is how her name is spelled. But so we meet her, and I think it's safe to assume that his inner need is to have a relationship. And clearly, as you would design a narrative protagonist, he's unaware of that. He's unaware of his inner need. He's only aware of his objective, climb mountain. Excuse me. The other thing that Jimmy Chin had going for him, built into this, is that the whole design of the objective sets up for life or death. It's a life or death situation. So the stakes couldn't be higher. I mean, it's really, you know, I think Chin did a great job designing the film. He worked with the producer, Walter Parks. Walter Parks ran DreamWorks for a number of years, a big producer. Walter Parks brought a lot to the table in terms of how to structure this. So again, that's kind of the first act. We meet everybody. We know. We meet the mentor, who's Tommy. Tommy's a great, and Tommy there again. I mean, it's real. It came with the territory, but Tommy's a great mentor because Tommy, he's a climber, but his story runs counter to Alex's. He's got a wife and children. He's more grounded. There's a bad pun in there somewhere, but anyway, he's more balanced. Act 2, Alex begins to prepare for the journey. He gets ready for the big fight or the big game. We throughout Act 2, we meet friends, we meet enemies. Fortunately, Alex is so quirky and unusual. He reminded me a little bit. This may be a reach, but he reminded me a little bit of Social Network, of Zuckerberg. He's so peculiar that not only are we willing to see if he can achieve his objective, but he's so peculiar that we want to watch him. He's just an odd guy. There are a number of friends. They play the way that Chen has edited the film. They play great roles. Mickey, I don't know if you remember him. Mickey's in there a little bit throughout the second act, and Mickey is truly apprehensive. He can't even watch Alex climb. He cringes because he thinks this is going to go badly. And then there's a great, about 30 minutes in, Sani, I hope I pronounced her name right, but I think that's right. Sani makes a mistake. She and Alex are out. She's got the rope, and she lets it flow through, and he falls, and he's hurt. This is a really wonderful, not wonderful for Alex, but this is a wonderful beat in the movie because now Sani, who's a friend and girlfriend and lover, now Alex begins to wonder if she's not the antagonist. And there are some great details played throughout the second act when he's thinking, maybe I should dump her. And even Tommy says at some point that a girlfriend is not conducive. Climbing's not conducive to a girlfriend. It's a distraction. And so we wonder, you know, is Alex going to do what might be the right thing and get rid of and dump her? Or is he going to still continue to nurture a relationship? So the second act is playing. We've got him preparing to climb. We've got an injury. Again, if you built this, if it was narrative storytelling, these are pretty much the beats you would hit. You need your protagonist to fall and hurt themselves and end up in the hospital in Act 2. And that's what happens. As I said a moment ago, there's some wonderful counterpoints to when Sani and Alex hang out with Tommy and his family, and we see this man who's done the same thing, but not as well as Alex. But he has a full life, and Alex does not. There's some wonderful heartbeat moments. There's one when Alex talks about, and we know, I think it's fair to say, maybe people will knee jerk to this, but it's fair. I think it's fair to say that the protagonist is so flawed that he could be called damaged. That's my word. But for instance, there's a wonderful moment. I've seen this film a couple times, and there's a wonderful moment in there when he talks about he practiced hugging because he realized he didn't know how to hug, and he said he's gotten pretty good at it, and he refers to love as the L word. We learn about his family. We learn that his dad had Asperger's. He died when Alex is young. This early to mid second act could be problematic. And it's important that everybody recognizes that. It could be problematic because he is not really in pursuit of his objective. He is not. They take a large portion of the film in middle second act where he's somewhat inactive, and we're doing backstory stuff. Chin gets saved because the backstory stuff is so unusual and unique that it's compelling. There's that wonderful interview with his mother, and then Alex, referring to his mother, says that his mother used to say, almost doesn't count. And then he kind of mumbles, it's a bit of a throwaway, but he says, it's a bottomless pit of self-loathing. So I think this, as those heartbeat moments in a movie should work, we gain empathy for Alex. We're on this ride with him because we can see that he is struggling. He is struggling. And the reason he ended up, as Alexie would say, climbing a rock is because, again, I'm sorry to use this word again, but he's somewhat damaged. The important thing in the second act, I just want to say a couple more things about that Chin has understood what's working and what's not. And he knows that if you go too early back to climbing this rock, it'll just get redundant. So he knows he has to fill time with this backstory. He got lucky that the backstory is so rich. But Chin clearly knew what he was up against. This is a really good note, because when you're designing a narrative fiction, to know and recognize what your problem is how you start to fix it and reframe it. And Chin has done that with this film. Too often, particularly, well, not only young film screenwriters, but all screenwriters, they either don't recognize what the problem is with the story, or they recognize it and it's just too damn much work to dive back in and fix it. And neither of those will pay off. You've got to be savvy enough to understand the story, understanding where the problems are. Chin knew that we can't stay on that rock too long. That when we go back to the rock we have to go there and we have to make it work. So he's got middle second act stuff that material and time that he's got to cover. And I think he did it really well. About page 42 or 42 minutes in, we go back to El Capitan. We learn that Alex has fallen here. We learn about technique, and we learn, most importantly, about the crux and the boulder problem. It's a great beat to lay that information in here, because we're going to play it we're going to play it with the ultimate test. We're going to play it in the late second act, early third act. So the crux is the hardest part of the mountain, and it's impossible. And we hear about the Teflon corner. We hear about the boulder problem. We find out, we learn what karate kicks are and double dynamo, I think, and what a straight jump is. And then there's a wonderful moment when we see, and again, you would build this in structurally if you were doing a narrative piece, when Alex is still practicing and preparing, and he's roped in and he falls. It's a great moment because he's preparing to go up without a rope. If he had been without a rope then, it would be over. So, and there's some conversation about he's never been injured before because he gets injured again, his foot injury. He never got injured until he had a girlfriend. So is she friend, lover, or is she antagonist? We don't know yet. There's another mentor I'll just mention real briefly, a guy named Peter Croft, who's truly like the Zen god in here. And he comes in just 2 or 3 times and says to Alex, you don't have to do this. He's a wonderful friend in the second act, and we know that second act you're building friends and enemies for your protagonist. What else do I want to say about that? That's kind of about it. There are a couple beats. I really like this film. There are a couple beats that Chin needed he needed these beats in the movie. There's a beat when Alex and Sandy are in the van, and she says, you know, what are you up to? And he says, I don't know. And then she said, well, what's going on tomorrow? Are you going to practice? And he says, no, maybe not. And then she gleans that he's going to climb tomorrow, that he's going to go for it. That scene is manufactured. That scene, I believe, is designed. I think Jimmy Chin said we need a scene that builds their relationship, the fact that they still don't communicate, and that he's going, and that he hasn't even told his girlfriend that he's climbing tomorrow. So Chin, it's not. I doubt that it's scripted, but that scene is designed, and there are a couple more that are designed because Jimmy Chin needed those scenes in the movie. I'm being a little bit of a stickler here, but it takes me out of the movie. And maybe I'm just too pragmatic about it. I don't know. I do have a note here in my notes for all of you, and I say this with a caveat. Frederick Weissman, maybe the granddaddy of doc filmmakers, or certainly one of Frederick Weissman. Don't hold me responsible, but if you like docs and you want to see something that is off the charts, Frederick Weissman's Titicut Follies. Titicut Follies is Weissman's, I think, first doc, and it's a brilliant piece. It's a masterpiece. It's a brilliant film. It's tough going, but anyway, I as I was watching this, also Errol Morris. You want to watch anything by Errol Morris? Anyway, back to page 60. Alex is going to climb. He goes up. He starts up the mountain. It's 4 a.m. or 4:30, and he can't do it. He can't make it. For me, this is the midpoint. He starts. He realizes he can't do it, and he comes back down. And he says, "I bailed." I tend to think that they didn't do quite enough with this moment. That it's not heartbreaking enough because it's all been leading to this. He starts to climb, and he comes down and says, "I'm not going." That is for me, the midpoint. That's his point of no return. That maybe, remember, the midpoint is that moment when the bottom falls out of the story for the protagonist, and the protagonist says, maybe I'll stop. Maybe I can't do this. And that certainly is that moment. It's laid in perfectly. It's page 60. That's about where it should be. And Alex stops. Peter, again, the Zen mentor, comes in and says, "You did the right thing." We cut there. Chin plays a little bit. Alex and Sani set up home. They set up housekeeping. He's nearly, undomesticated. The refrigerator, all this stuff is foreign to him. We get through that pretty quickly. We can't tell if it's working for him or not. And finally, now we're going back. He's going back. He's practicing, and now he's getting ready to go. He's recommitted to the climb, and we move into Act 3. Act 3 is about page 77, and this is the day. This is it. He's going to do it. This is the approach to the ultimate test. I said this before, but it's in my notes. Let me just make sure that, again, the built-in dynamic of this situation is that it's life or death. Alexie and I will talk about this later. She mentioned this before. I assume that everybody knew that Alex was alive. Maybe that's not the case. I want to hear from you when we wrap up. But I've always thought that Chin had a problem here. Because as we go into the Act 3, as we go into the ultimate testing, he's going up, he's going to climb free solo. The problem is we know he's alive. So that's where, again, if you were doing a narrative-driven film, or if this was fiction, you would play this. The point of view that you would take the audience into would be real time. Because as dramatic and suspenseful as it is, knowing that he lives, Imagine if this was shot narrative fiction and you didn't know, and he starts that climb. Again, they use the crux. The guys are watching, and they see him do the crossover, and he makes it. He makes it. Oh my God. So that, again, I mean, it would be even more compelling if he's getting ready to do the crossover. This is where he dies. And he doesn't. He makes it. He makes the climb. He gets there. He reaches the top of the pinnacle. I kind of just love this character. Is so authentic and so wonderful. He does say, Adam knew I was going to hit on this. He does say, what a journey. Yeah, it's a journey. That's what they all are. They're journeys. And he actually says, what a journey. Also, you got to love the fact he says, I'm so delighted. I feel quite emotional. So that here again is a guy who's not fully changed. There's not full resolution, but he does get on the phone with Sonny and says, I love you. And that's where we have resolution and closure. He has made the journey. It's successful. He has found his inner need. We think there's hope that he and Sonny will have a life together, and he will have a relationship. And he conquered the mountain. He obtained his objective. That's, I think, all I have on Free Solo. Alexie? Thanks.
Yay!
Yeah.
I love this movie. I thought it was fantastic.
Oh, I'm so glad, because you didn't know.
Yeah.
I don't think you had seen it.
No, I had not seen it. And it was like, I don't know. I don't really use drugs, but I'm sure it would be the equivalent of like an overdose of stress, anxiety. You know, like I was pacing around the room,
Adam said.
I'd be like,
Adam
oh my
said,
God.
"This is what anxiety feels like."
Right? Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, that was a great experience. Oh, there's a little bit of a discussion here. I think we have some
What's
different
that?
opinions about whether or not Sammy is first of all, I think Sammy's his mentor, but I also thought she was kind of the greatest antagonist in the story, in the sense that if his objective was to climb this mountain, she's the greatest obstacle to him maintaining the focus. So I think she's also his antagonist in this story.
Yeah. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think I did not mention that, because I think,
well, antagonist doesn't necessarily mean you're a bad person. It's just in terms of the goal of you want to shame.
She's an obstacle.
She is the greatest source of causing him to not be somebody who could do that. Like she represents a balanced life. She represents like emotional stability. She represents like all the things that you don't have to be able to climb that mountain free solo.
That's right.
And what like I think this is kind of where maybe some people think, oh, all antagonists have to sort of have a negative worldview.
No.
I don't think that's the case.
No, they don't have to be evil, but you're right. And again, Adam, I think if you were doing a narrative version of this, you would make her a little more confrontational.
I mean, she's pretty confrontational in this. I don't know. Like,
yeah. Okay. Good.
I don't know.
I think you're right. She is the antagonist.
I don't think so.
Why don't you think she's the antagonist?
Because I think that it's structured in a way that is non-traditional and is structured so that the mountain is the antagonist. So like I think she fills like a role that kind of sometimes behaves like an antagonist, but she doesn't stand in the way enough.
Right.
Like
but but if we go to the point, if we take the view that the antagonist represents the opposing belief system, like of the protagonist, like for example, she's the one who, like, her beliefs about the world and their relationship are the things that cause him to like have the most problems. Like he said, I started injuring myself once, like
when you came in. Yeah, that's right.
I guess, but it's also like they also set up the film crew's set up as an antagonist.
The film crew, I didn't mention, and I was going to, Alexie, you're absolutely right. The film crew starts as a friend and then becomes an enemy. Yeah. Because it's taking away his attention. He's like, he can't. But I love the idea of her. I think if she had her druthers, she would say, you don't do this, don't climb.
Theo said
Alex is the antagonist.
I mean, it kind of is structured so that he's his own antagonist. Like, at the end of the day, what's really stopping him the most? It's like a him thing. He has to figure out how to, like, overcome his own fear. So there's, like, a version where you break it, where he's his own antagonist, especially considering he had the midpoint where he was the one who called it off. Like, I feel, you know, like, if this was done...
Is El Capitan the antagonist?
That's how I think it's structured. I think that, like, I totally get why people could see Stanny as the antagonist. I think that, like, I see it, but I just think that she's not as in the way as the mountain itself.
But it's not so much that, like, she's having those big, no, for sure, you know, it's the huge obstacle. You could also, you know, you have my view is, you know, antagonist is a role that a character plays. It's not necessarily like, you know, you are the antagonist, therefore that's all you are and you're evil or a villain, or like, I don't think the word antagonist is synonymous with villain. It's like, I think there are like different types of antagonism, right? There's like external antagonism. There's like a philosophical antagonism. There's emotional, interpersonal. Like, you could say in Star Wars, Han Solo is like philosophically an antagonist because he's all like, only look after yourself. Like, there are those scenes. So like, you could say that maybe she's like a philosophical antagonist and an emotional one, whereas the actual external thing that causes the most conflict is El Capitan. So I don't know. It's just a
by the way, he's a terrific. I mean, you know, he is. I think he's just such a great character. Somebody mentioned in here, she said a sexual could go here, and he said, I'd like to sleep on the rug or whatever. You know, this is a guy who's just, he's so off the charts that I think if you made the fictional version of him, people would go, nah, you got to tone that down. That guy, you know.
But you know, I think this is a great case for, like, I think this film, there's actually a lot to learn from this film if you imagine that it's fictional. Or at least I think so many people pick boring as fuck protagonists. Excuse my language, but like, so many people are like, oh, but they're a good person and they learn. But like, no, like pick the most interesting person. Like, if you really think about who the most interesting people in society are, they're not the people who like care about other people's feelings as much all the time. They're people who have big problems, either they're social or emotional, or, you know, in terms of their roles and their positioning in life, you know, like this guy is got room to grow, you know.
Yeah. I mean, he's seriously flawed, but you make a good point because, you know, most of us really love our protagonist and we don't want to make them bad or flawed. And if you don't, they've got nowhere to go. So what you've done is you've crippled their journey if you haven't made them. I mean, he's a mess. This guy's a train wreck. You know, if she doesn't show up, if she never showed up, he'd be in that van the rest of his life.
He'd be dead.
He'd be dead, which he might still be, but yeah.
Right.
So, John, this reminded me of Passionate Objectives.
So good, right? I mean, like, this is
like he sets it up so it's basically like they set it up so it's like it's his life is climbing. So they make it like either he's gonna die from not climbing it or he's gonna die climbing it. Like, but like you can't not do it.
Yeah.
Sorry, John. I'm surprised you haven't said the word stakes. Maybe you did. You did.
It's in my notes. It's in my notes so many times. I tried to. The stakes are so. Thanks. I mean, Jimmy Chin must have just been like
dying inside.
You can't stop me from making this film. The stakes are What are the stakes? Oh, life or death.
He played it so cool though.
I
was like, he played it so cool though when freaking Alex was like, you know, like when he was like, you know, we don't have to be there, and he's like, oh, I know, I could just like, it's totally on the table that I'll just sneak out and go do it by myself. Yeah.
I mean, this guy plays by his own rules. Alexie, you hit on something that I just have to backtrack a little bit on. You're absolutely right. He is so passionate. He's so committed to this. And sometimes I'll have a student and they'll pitch a movie idea and they'll say about the protagonist, they'll say, she kind of wants, and I go, oh God, stop. If she kind of wants, you're dead. If she kind of wants, you have to reframe the whole thing. Alex doesn't kind of want to climb that mountain. There's at no point in that movie is he going to do anything but climb that damn mountain. And that's what makes us follow him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
So, I just want to talk for a minute because this film sort of reminded me of the ideal form of a movie, right? Like the essential ingredients that make things tasty, the end effect of people being engaged in giving a shit. And we have to think like those ingredients are a compelling protagonist who has room to grow. Like you establish that and having that protagonist have something that's akin to a mountain to climb, right? Literally in this movie, he's got to climb this impossible mountain. Most movies have a metaphorical mountain. What is your mountain? And how can you make your protagonist a rock climber? You know, like how do you make the mountain match the protagonist? That's such a problem for so many stories where like they have like, okay, and then they're going to pull off the most dangerous heist ever, but they're, you know, they do it. They're tax attorney. Why does this person have to be doing the heist? Like, how can you connect the goal or the ambition or the plot of the story with the perfect protagonist? Like, that's kind of where it gets really tricky. That's where the art form of this comes from. Like, how do you put the mountain with the protagonist? And this dude, I mean, he's literally a rock climber. I don't know. Like, sometimes it can be that simple.
Yeah. Here, real quick, I want to hit on this from Visage. Are there any rules to doc filmmaking, like acts, desired beats, etc.? John, do you want to talk a little bit about like what it's like to make a doc?
Yeah. You know, as I said in the beginning, you do want to find structure. And docs have changed over the years. Now they're more and more focused on finding and designing a 3-act structure. So finding those beats. One of the painful things about doc filmmaking is you may have a lot of great footage that you simply cannot use because it doesn't fit the structure of the film. And also, imagine this. Imagine that it's easy to imagine. Imagine you just started writing a script. Just wrote fade in and just started writing scenes. And you got about 400 pages when you finish the damn thing. It's 400 pages and you go, wow, I got to bring this down. That's doc filmmaking. They're shooting 400 pages. Then they have to back into it and they have to find a first act break. And they do find these pins to hang the story on. And Chin has done that brilliantly. He's found them. He knows that he knows that he had a beat when they're talking about the crux. And he's going to lay that beat in early for second act, and he's going to play it again middle of second act as Alec practices. He's practicing doing that crossover step and the karate kick. And then it pays off because that's the ultimate test. Will he make it across the crux? So Chin knew he had those pieces of footage. Also, it's incumbent on a doc filmmaker. Many times they have to go back and pick stuff up. They have to do reshoots because they don't have a second act beat that they know they that they know they need. And as I said, particularly with Alex and Sonny, there are moments in here. He did a great job, but there are moments that are manufactured. You know, which is just it happens. So they are backing into 3-act structure. I'm answering that question. Yes, you need 3-act structure because, by the way, the audience today is different than when Frederick Wiseman started making his docs, which are not so well formulated. The audience now is just too damn demanding. The audience today, they don't walk in and go, it's a doc. It may be a little loose. Nobody buys a ticket for a doc and says, it may have a 3-act structure and it might not. They walk in, they go, entertain me. It's a movie. I'm used to movies. This, you're calling it a doc. I don't know what that is, but it damn well better be entertaining. and therefore it's got to have story structure.
We should bring back Erin sometime because she does docs and
She
could
does
tell
docs.
us.
She's really a good doc filmmaker.
Yeah, I asked if she was. She's unfortunately not available, but we should bring her back sometime. Here's another question. I was wondering this too, John. How can you tell if the moments are manufactured?
Yeah. Well, so those moments are. There's an intimacy, and it works. Those moments work, but there's an intimacy between the two of them that is shot usually in it's at the apartment when they get their apartment. It's mainly in a trailer when they're having a conversation. Would you ever give this up? No, I would. Jimmy needs those. Chin needs those moments, and he was not sitting in the trailer with them for 40 hours listening to their conversation. And it just so happened that they came to this one pivotal confrontational moment. It's how many hundreds of hours would you have to shoot two people to get that beat that offers confrontation and contrasting sensibilities? You'd have to shoot 1,000 hours. So Jimmy Chin said, listen, you guys had a conversation once. You told me about this conversation you had. I'm going to put the camera in the van. We're going to lock it down, and I'll just stay in a master, and you guys just have a conversation, and we're just going to roll and try to recreate that conversation as you told it to me, a couple days ago. Then they roll it out, and it makes it, but it's not. No, it's not.
I think you're just cynical.
Am I?
I think that's really what you're saying.
I thought it was real.
No.
Did you? Oh,
I thought it was real. I think you're ruining it.
I think he played.
You're ruining the magic.
I think I'm somewhere in between both of you. I think that some of those moments were a little bit more real than what I think he fudged was timeline. Like, I think he took certain shots out of context and cut them in to make it seem like things were happening like consecutively. Yeah. Like those emotional, I feel like that was manufactured, but I do think that like what they shot, I don't think they staged anything.
Wait, you want to know what the best things in the entire film was?
What?
When he was doing the final climb and he would finish a part where like there was like a 95% chance he was going to die. And then he just looks at the camera and he's like, isn't that great? Wasn't that the best part? I loved that.
Did you really?
Yeah, he just
he just sort of chilled,
I also love the end that he went back to his hangboard.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I hated when they showed us the wide, like when he got to the top and then they showed like the drone shot of him on top. And he doesn't look safe yet.
No.
Like
I would have been clean. I would have been on my hands and knees, right? Yeah. And he's like standing there.
He's like skipping around, like looking over the edge. I'm like, freaking sit down. Like,
would that be terrible if they caught them and
the wind blows and it blows them off?
I was like, just sit down. Like, get back.
Sit down. You made it. Just put your seatbelt on and stay in the car. Yeah, well, maybe I'm a little cynical. I don't know.
I think there was definitely like massaging.
Yeah. No, I don't think it was just completely like this is how it unfolded. But like,
yeah,
I didn't think it was so. I didn't think it was quite that fake. But who knows? Who knows? I tried Googling it when you said it the first time, John, and I couldn't find anything.
Well, Jimmy Chin's not going to say. He's not going to say that. I mean, he's not. I don't think it was scripted, but he's not going to say I designed those moments. You're not going to catch him saying that. I don't think.
No. I was hoping it would have leaked.
Documentary filmmaker, street cred, but also like they ask people to like do stuff all the time. Like, okay, can you get up and do your morning routine? And like that's stuff that's like, that's fake. You're right, but like it's to an extent. Like I don't think the conversation between him and Sammy were fake. Like that was too real.
God,
I think the timing of things, when they showed things was manufactured. But
they did. She did pretty good at like not telling him not to go. I like at some point I was like, she's gonna snap. She's gonna say don't go.
The mom was totally on board, you know.
Yeah, the mom was like, you know,
who's gonna take it away from him? You know.
Yeah, I mean, there's a great beat in what maybe I'm wrong, but there's a great beat in there when she says to him, "What if you had to choose?" And he said, "Oh, that's easy." That's a beautiful moment. By the way, that's a protagonist. That's a protagonist who's committed to his objective.
See, and we pick protagonists in stories who are too likable.
Yeah.
All the time. I mean, I don't think likable is the wrong word, but like.
Well, I mean, we called it a hero's journey for so long, and it's like that doesn't feel like a hero to be that big of a dude.
Well, he's not here.
You know what I mean? That's what I mean, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I mean. Is that like he's not a hero? He's a protagonist, and it's like, who? Oh, wait, did I say the thing on here that I said before that apparently after he climbed it, his mom climbed it and became the oldest person to climb it?
Yeah,
I mean that's amazing.
Yeah. Is he somewhere? Is Alex somewhere on the spectrum? He's out of whack, right?
Who knows?
He remember his amygdala wasn't something's up.
Yeah. Was that MRI thing? The whole thing on the MRI is this guy is, you know, he said, well, you just don't respond to stimulation. You know, stimuli it doesn't seem to affect you.
No. So, I mean, I guess it's valid. I mean, it makes sense that this is what he has to do to get excited about something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just flat out was not happening.
I saw this interview with him, and somebody asked him, was like, you know, when's your next film? You know, and he was like, there's going to be no Free Solo 2. That was it. There's no bigger mountain. That was it. I climbed it. Like, there's nothing else.
Yeah.
That's got to be kind of a depressing feeling. Like,
exactly.
For him.
Well, I mean, I was impressed when I checked his Wikipedia that he hasn't tried to climb a bunch of other things and ended up dead. So I feel like maybe this is like, maybe now he'll actually live. Seems like everybody else, it seemed like kept ending up dying, but he convinced himself that doing this one was perfect. Right?
There's a wonderful montage in the middle of it where they do pictures and they flash through all those people who have died.
Yeah.
You know, and Adam, yeah. So they're just saying, here are the stakes.
25 climbers died.
Yeah.
A lot of them were his friends too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they had the friend die apparently the morning of the climb, and he was just like, well. And then the girlfriend was like, oh my God. And God, that poor girl.
Yeah. Yeah. I was so worried that it seems to me that I was worried that people wouldn't like a doc film, but
I mean, this was a really engaging like experience. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, it has all the things you want in a story. You know, it's got a interesting person and a really great mountain and life or death stakes. I mean,
yeah.
It
felt very narrative. It felt very, very narrative.
It felt very narrative. And I'm sure Walter Parks, I mentioned this before, but Walter Parks had a lot to do with that because he's an old school film producer, has done so many movies. And I'm sure he was just thrilled when Chin said to him, it's about a freak who climbs mountains and risks his life. I'm sure Walter Parks said, sign me up, let's go. And start throwing money at it.
Just one thing that came up in the chat earlier, we were talking about the word hero. I just do think that the word hero has the wrong connotation recently because of its usage. And so like the original like definition of like the Joseph Campbell hero, like a hero is somebody who learns and changes and is courageous because they weren't courageous. A hero is a catalyst of change, you know? And I think when we use the word heroic, what we mean is the changed hero, like the hero at the end of the journey, but like that's a different usage and a different like definition.
I don't know if that's the original.
Well, I mean, I'm talking about when we talk about narrative and we're talking about the hero's journey, the word hero in the hero's journey means a different thing than the word hero in terms of like casual usage.
Right. That's what I'm pointing out though, is that like it, and I don't necessarily think that Joseph Campbell was making that distinction. I think that distinction is kind of evolved over the course of like the hero's journey evolving. Because like, I mean, he started out with like the very traditional stories of like this like protector or like defender person going out and like doing a quest and then becoming better and then coming back, you know? And I think it's like shifted to be broader and be more about change as we've understood like what people like. Because I mean, you have like Greek heroes and stuff like that, or like some of the earlier heroes, I believe, like in terms of like using that word,
right? But in a lot of those stories, still the hero becomes heroic, right? Like Theseus isn't necessarily heroic the first moment we meet him, or Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh was you know, terrorizing women and stuff, you know, before, you know, he met Enkidu. Like horror, like it's an attribute you take on in terms of narrative, and like it's semantics. It doesn't matter. But
it's important to know, and I think both of you, the points well taken, that not being too good to your protagonist in the first act is a good thing. They can start off terribly flawed. That gives them room to move.
Yeah.
Somebody in here was from Sean. Is it Sean was from a climbing family? Yeah, Sean's from a climbing family. My God.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Wow. It must be a high. It must be a real high.
John, have you ever climbed anything?
No.
No? Have you climbed a rock wall?
I did try a rock wall. I have tried rock walls. Yeah.
I've never climbed a rock wall.
What the F? That's just like this is a thing that happens.
I never went to the gym. I never did sports. I never did any of that. I was doing yoga when I was 12. Like that's what I was
doing. My God.
Yeah. But like you like go to like a fair.
Yeah. Not interested. I would just tell you, it was like, I don't want calluses on my hands. I don't want to fall. I'm a coward. Gosh. I don't want to do that. I refuse. I don't put myself in danger.
It's got to be a real high. It's got to be such an adrenaline rush. Yeah.
Pun intended. Yeah, that's great. No, I thought that, I don't know. Yeah. It just was like a thing that I thought everybody had done because of like fairs.
I've never been to a fair.
Oh.
Such a sheltered life, Adam.
That's sheltered. I just grew up in cities, you know, around, you know, those people.
Around city people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
I do. Does this rock climbing, at all seductive to you, Adam? Does it? No, really?
Seem like a guy who would do it.
No.
To me, it's completely seductive.
Alexie, the more you'll get to know me, you'll know that I would never put myself in any form of physical danger, no matter how minute. I won't go on boats. I won't climb. I won't skydive. I won't do any of that stuff.
Are you the kind of kid who would only eat chicken nuggets?
I don't eat chicken nuggets because I was a vegetarian when I grew up.
Oh my God.
Because they have it's bad for you, processed chicken, unless it was like farm to table or something ethical.
Man,
that's funny. I'm too old to do it, but I
value myself too much. Wow.
I like the risk. I like a little bit of because I cycle, and that's dangerous. It can be dangerous, cycling.
Yeah, cycling. Yeah,
cycling.
Yeah. I flipped a bike once. Yeah, it can be crazy.
I've climbed things. I guess you were right that the most likely person to have climbed among us.
I know. I know what I'm talking about, Alexie. I know what I'm talking about.
Somebody said maybe we should do more docs. I don't know, but we could.
Yeah, the ones that have narrative, the ones that are narrative specific.
Well, that's what I love about this one, is that you can take from it and you can see that the filmmaker's approach was a storytelling approach to his subject, to the content, and which is why it works so well.
So
we do what we do in the shadows.
That's a great film. I have a theory about documentary structure, which is I think that Act 3 is the most important thing to hit. Like you need to hit the trough and then the acceleration. Like the docs that don't do that don't work.
Right.
Like every doc I've ever seen that works does that, you know.
Well, like
and then this is how they solved it.
When he failed the rock climbing, like the first time he went up, he tried to go up and he failed. I paused it and I was like, "Oh my god, it's just like a literal midpoint." Like
it was so on. I mean, yeah, it's so on the money,
timed.
right?
Yeah. I know. I'm like, you got to be kidding.
Yeah, no, it was. That's what I'm telling you. I mean, Chin went, "Oh, this is my midpoint. Here's where I lock it in. Now I'll work backwards from there with second act stuff because I know." Yeah,
man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, what else do we want to talk about? Do we have any other questions?
I don't know. Maybe
people can't ask like,
how
did they write
it? Mockumentaries are. Do you guys? I love Chris Guest.
Oh, that's what I like.
Like
what we do in the shadows.
That is my favorite celebrity connection of yours, John, because I
Chris
love
Guest?
Best in Show, Spinal Tap.
You have? I don't know what that is.
Best in Show.
Best in Show, Spinal Tap, Mighty Wind.
He was in Princess Bride. He was the villain, but that's not his documentary.
He's the villain in Princess Bride, yeah. And he was on SNL for a while. Chris Guest I think he's a great filmmaker. He's very funny. He's very droll, very dry, and his films reflect that. And Adam remembers that. Yeah, that I forgot that I told you that he and I kind of worked together for a little bit and couldn't get a movie made. But God, it was fun hanging out with him because he's such a character. He's just talk about eccentric. He is just in LA. A lot of people fake eccentricity, you know. So. Yeah. And his is it's in his blood. He's just
he's a true weirdo.
He's a very unique guy. Nothing affects him. He's just locked in. He's Chris Guest all day long.
Would you say that Spinal Tap was like the first big mockumentary?
Yeah,
probably the first big one.
Rob Reiner and all those guys. Yeah, I mean
it's a funny movie.
And they toured. You know, that band toured with Chris Guest and Mike Murphy and what's his name? Yeah. Yeah,
Alexie, we should do one of those. We should do a mockumentary.
Best in Show is so good.
Best in Show.
I was just looking it up.
These are also films. Little Shop of Horrors is a great film. He is married to Jamie Lee Curtis. He is. And God, I'm going to get in trouble. I'm going to get in trouble here. I'll get a little trouble here, or a lot of trouble. I know I'm name dropping, but you know I do that from too often. But they couldn't be more dissimilar. You just can't. They've been married for 100 years, and I'm sure it's working. I'm sure they're happy. But they are the two most unlikely people in the world to be together. She needs all the attention all the time, and he sits back and doesn't soft spoken when he speaks. It's funny, it's smart, and she's screaming at the top of her lungs all the time. Anyway, it's weird.
Interesting, but opposites attract, they say.
I guess maybe that's the good.
Allegedly,
you don't want too much of yourself. I would never date somebody like myself, ever.
Me neither.
Never date a screenwriter. That's the
the kiss of death. Yeah. What else have we got here? So I'm glad. Yeah. I mean, I would love to go. We could do. I'm trying to think. Waiting for Guffman.
That's a good one.
I don't know what any of these are.
Oh, well, then you're in for a treat. We'll do. Let me. Even Adam finds himself insufferable.
That's true.
It's as Alex said, it's a bottomless pit of self-loathing.
What a good quote.
We love you, Adam. We love you. I've got to think. Adam, do you have a favorite Guest film?
I mean, Spinal Tap for me was big when I was a kid. Like I loved that movie as a kid.
Reiner directed that. That's not Guest though.
That was one of his. Reiner directed it, but Chris Guest wrote it and invented the character with what's the name? The guy.
Let's do Best in Show.
Best in Show's the one to do though. Best in Show is so funny.
Best in Show is just nonstop scream. He's got 2 left feet.
So we don't have a film next week, so we could informally watch it because we have Cosmo.
Wait, when are we doing Looper? What?
Huh?
We're doing
Cosmo next week.
Yeah, Cosmo's next week, so we don't have a film, but we could
next week.
We could do it as a little informal one. Everyone just watch Best in Show.
Honeyland, is that film with what's his name? Honeyland.
Both films are that film with what's his name?
What's his name? Yeah. You know the guy. He's always in trouble.
Are you talking about Shia LaBeouf? Because that's a different Honey thing. Yeah. That's Honey Boy.
That's a really good film.
Honey Boy is, I think, the Shia LaBeouf
Honey
one.
Boy. I think it's Honey Boy. Maybe Honeyland's something else. Honey Boy is a really good film.
Honeyland is about the last female bee hunter in Europe. Bee hunter?
What? What? Is it good?
Wait, hang on. I'm gonna.
Honeyland is great. Veronica says Honeyland is great. I think Veronica's kind of offering to come in and break it.
Here it is.
Honeyland is amazing.
This is it.
My God.
The last female bee hunter in Europe must save the bees and return natural balance in Honeyland, where a family of nomadic beekeepers invade her land and threaten her livelihood. And that's a doc.
See, that you've sold me. That's a movie right there.
Yeah, exactly. Me too. I'm going.
Real. It's like, oh, okay.
A family of nomadic beekeepers invade her land. That's so strong.
Can we talk for a second about based on a true story?
Yeah.
So this is kind of an interesting, I don't want to call it a paradox, but there's a phenomena that plays out where when you're a writer and you're basing something off of your own life experience or something that's true, and you stay too true to the events, often that kills your story because you're not like thinking outside the box, thinking about what the best ideal story is. But audiences on the flip side love the idea a lot of the times of it. Oh my God, this really happened. To the point where I remember I was like looking up online at the reception to Queen's Gambit, and there were a lot of people who were disappointed that it wasn't a true story.
I was.
There were a lot of people like, oh, that ruined it for me because I watched it thinking. There's one thing assuming like knowing that it's fictional going in, but some people watched it thinking that it was based on a true story, and were very upset when it wasn't because that was like kind of help in enhancing their enjoyment.
That makes sense.
But it's kind of an interesting phenomena where, as a writer, the more you base something off a true story, you're typically getting yourself into trouble if you're just sort of didactically doing that. But audiences love that idea a lot of the time. It's interesting.
That's why I'm such a fan of the show that John recommended, The Great, about Catherine the Great. I'm going to share it too, because it is based on real life, but they're completely straight up about the fact that they're not going to stick to it if they don't want to.
Yeah, it's kind of a big what if using real characters.
That's right, and it's so well done. Oh, God,
it is so funny and so good. I would definitely recommend checking that out because I feel like that is like a beautiful medium. You get the benefit of people being like, oh, it's based on something real, but also like I was never promised. And at the beginning of every episode, it's kind of like, I think it's like The Great and then like an asterisk, and it's like something like kind of based on true events or something. Yeah.
I mean, inspired by a true story is always a good way to go. But Adam's point is well taken. And I've read scripts and said, why is this scene in there? And then the typically the argument is, well, it really happened. Well, nobody cares. It's not dramatic. It doesn't push the story forward. Yeah, but it really happened.
Yeah. That's when you have to emotionally accept that it's based on a true story and not literally a true story.
Fargo. I'm watching Fargo now. Somebody just mentioned it, Fargo.
I think the fact that it's based on a true story is a joke.
I do. I've wondered that. Yeah.
It's a joke.
Yeah.
It's not actually based on a true story, I don't think.
It's a good, but by the way, it's a really good show.
Yeah.
I love
the original movie.
The original movie's great. Yep. So what's Cosmo? Cosmo, is he got a film? He's gonna talk about the business, how it works, what goes on.
He's just gonna talk about the business.
Talk about the business. Gonna talk about breaking in. And I'm gonna grab his bio real quick so people know that why they should come. So you all keep talking for a second.
Okay.
Cue for complete silence, John.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for help.
Yeah, exactly. Do we have any good questions? What do we got?
I mean, it's hard to have questions about the doc. People just talk.
Oh, here we go. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and read Cosmo's bio. So Cosmo Carlson was one of John's previous students and is a 2-time blacklister with several projects in development. He the 2 scripts he had on the blacklist were Valedictorian in 2017 and Showrunner in 2019. Showrunner has producer Kenya Barris, the creator of Blackish, and director Tim Wardle, 3 Identical Strangers Attached. And Valedictorian has producer Kevin Turn of Euphoria and Waves, and Jennifer Morrison of Euphoria and Dr. Death, also attached. And then he's also working on some other projects and has some representation. And yeah, he was in John's class with me. And
it was some class.
Yeah, it was a fun class. Very, very funny guy. I actually don't know if the stuff he's writing is still funny. Is he writing funny things still?
Yeah, he's just written a script about Joan Rivers, who, for those of you who don't know, was a stand-up comedian who had a very difficult, demanding life. Speaking of inspired by, this is a true story, and I don't want to spoil it because Cosmo will get into it. But he ended up working with her daughter and the trials and tribulations. So that'll be interesting to hear him talking about what can I use, what can't I use, what happened, what didn't happen. Because he's just finished that script, and the script's getting really good feedback. I think maybe it's got a producer attached also.
Oh yeah, here it is. It says it will be produced by Atlas Entertainment that did American Hustle and Wonder Woman.
Was that Chuck Robin?
I don't know who. It doesn't say who.
Yeah. Okay. No.
But yeah, he's a funny guy, and that'll be a fun chat. Does he have the same modern Hollywood anecdotes?
We'll see.
We'll find out.
Is he in LA?
No, he's here. He's here. Yeah.
It's always encouraging.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's used that well. That the kind of cachet of I'll come out for a week. Which the best way that works is the way he's doing. I'll be there for a week. If you miss me that week, you miss me. So make your time work around my schedule, and they do.
Yeah. Wow. Do some rounds. Yeah. But yeah, that's going to be a great one, and we could watch a little bonus coffee class together in the Discord and talk about it if we wanted to, since there's not technically one for this coming week. Here we go. This is a question about Free Solo. Not sure if this was stated, but what would be the thematic question of Free Solo? Would the theme be centered around the idea of completing momentous tasks at life or death risks versus just living?
Something like that.
Yeah, I think it's got to be about like about living and like life and like what that means, and like if life is worth living if you're not doing the things that make you feel alive. And like, what are those things?
Even if the things which is alive threaten the other parts of your life.
Yeah.
But his mother kind of touched on that. She said, if I stopped him, he wouldn't be him. And I think, yes, thematically, that's a really good question. But I do think thematically, this is what he must do. There's a couple of wonderful moments in there when he says, I live in a trailer. Yeah. And somebody asked him about his dating. He says, well, I live in a trailer and I don't have a shower. So clearly he is true to himself. There's no fudging. There's no, I'm going to make this because people will think I'm cool. This is an authentic guy. And I think that's completely endearing and unique. The social norms do not seem to encumber him at all.
Not even a little. I love that kid that asked him how much money he has. What a good
Yeah.
kid. Love
He has
that
a lot
Yeah.
more money now, though, after his book.
Oh,
and-
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. Somebody, his agent, is speaking again. Also, I love when he makes the dinner in the pan and then uses the spatula to eat out of the pan.
That was great.
That was
Oh.
great. I mean, again, that's a character trait that if in a fictional character, if only you were so lucky to come up with that, because when he does it and he's using the spatula to shovel food in his face, I'm going, that's probably how he eats every night.
So,
I mean, he hasn't been housebroken.
So this just brings up an interesting idea, which is choosing your subject, right? In a documentary, choosing the subject is like, it's the thing. You're going to follow this guy around and his life, and that's the story or not. Like, you're going to capture what you can. Like, the decision of what this is and who it is everything about a documentary, everything that matters, and everything that will help you succeed or not succeed. The same is true in narrative, actually. Most bad scripts can follow every rule, can follow every act break, can have all of the character arc and everything. But if the concept sucks, it's not going to be great. Like, choosing a great protagonist, a great concept is like a huge part of the battle. And if you can't choose a great idea, I don't want to even say great idea, but like something that will work conceptually based on what you're going to add to it. I think a lot of people undersell that. They think, oh, I'm just going to write something. Well, no, but like, what is it? I think that matters a lot more than people, I think, acknowledge in casual conversation when they're talking about screenplays.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Agreed. And that reminded me of, like, I briefly remember Aaron talking about that there's like two different ways to approach a doc. Just to touch on the doc thing again, one is that you're going to follow something, like you're following something that's happening and you're going to let the story unfold. And another is that you go into a situation with the story in mind. So like the documentary, the 13th, about the 13th Amendment, that was the one where they're not just following someone around. They're like actively going to try to like investigate this idea, and they have an idea of what they want to do beforehand. And then this is the type where you choose a compelling subject who is hopefully going to do something interesting if you hang around long enough. Just throwing that out there. So I don't think we touched on it yet. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Alex is highly watchable, and that's what you're looking for in creating just as we keep saying, is a compelling character to watch.
Since we have a bit more time.
But also a character with a mountain.
Character with a mountain. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is like somebody was going to make this. I years ago, I was in meeting with these guys. They came to teach. They taught briefly at NYU, and I had a meeting with them because they were going to teach reality/doc TV. And if I remember correctly, one of them was a Rhodes Scholar. They were very erudite, very interesting, intelligent guys. So we met and talked, and their claim to fame was they had made a lot of documentaries. They made documentaries, and they, heady stuff, interesting stuff. But they got tired of being poor. So they came up with a TV series idea. And that series idea was Dog the Bounty Hunter. So they got an interest. They said bounty hunters, and they got a network to say we're interested. And I assume most of you will know what Dog the Bounty Hunter was. This guy, long blonde hair, and his wife, and they're just crazy as hell. And so they said they started, but they had to find a bounty hunter because they didn't have one. And they said they started interviewing bounty hunters and bounty hunters and bounty hunters. And they said one day Dog walked in, and they said, we're done. This guy is so highly watchable, so of a piece, so who he is, that we'll watch him. And they said, and true to form, they said he was every bit of that. And they said all they had to do was put a camera on him. And they said you couldn't take your eyes off of him. They said ultimately that after 8 seasons, it was just too much to bear, and they couldn't work with him any longer, and they canceled the show.
8 seasons is a lot, though.
8 seasons, a lot. I mean, I said to them, why did the show end? And they said, we ended it. I said, why'd you end the show? It was a moneymaker. And they said, we couldn't take him anymore. we
Talk about a freaking doc that you can't take anymore. Tiger King. Jesus
there
Christ.
you go.
Have you seen
Yeah.
that, John?
Yeah, I couldn't stomach it. I couldn't.
Yeah,
I'm like
too
two
I
far.
saw
episodes
the
in.
whole thing.
I don't. Yeah.
I almost wish Trump had pardoned him because he sent a video asking for a pardon. So
Oh God.
like that would have been so funny. I mean,
Yeah.
horrible, undeserved, all of that stuff. But like,
I was
would be
kind of
fun.
surprised it didn't happen, to be honest.
yeah, I was kind of surprised it didn't happen.
Wow, yeah, it was a year ago. Man, it's hard
Was
to
it?
believe
Oh my
that.
God, really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it came out like right at the very beginning of quarantine.
When We Were Kings. I think I've seen that. It's Ali. Yeah. Right. Yeah, directing is 90% casting. Hitchcock. Yeah, absolutely. Alex Honnold was perfectly cast in his own movie, wasn't he? Yeah. Tiger King. I couldn't. The guy was just. Yeah.
It was so
Too
bad,
creepy.
and it was so. God,
I don't
what
want,
a show!
I don't want him or Carol Baskin in my head at all. Like,
I don't
who's Carol?
know.
That's Florida.
Who's Carol
That's
Carol
Florida.
That's his
That's the woman
rival.
in- That's his rival.
That he-
Oh, yeah, it's his rival. Oh,
who
yeah. The
allegedly
woman.
killed her
Yeah.
husband
Oh
and
God.
fed him to tigers.
Yeah,
I mean,
he
it
tried to
doesn't- by the
kill.
way, doesn't it stress you that these people are actually out there? I mean, if they were fictional, I'd kind of go, but the fact that they're out there
Yeah,
and they're
that
allowed,
is terrifying.
and the other thing, and this is going to get me in trouble, and they're allowed to vote. That also, I find that very disturbing.
Yeah, I know. That's the problem with democracy is that the people vote.
That's why
If the
Adam
problem
wants
with
to rule.
democracy is not everybody votes the way I vote.
Yeah, no, that's,
Yeah.
that's a whole other problem, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Wait, they're making what into a movie? Tiger King?
So I'm sure it's in development or something.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
I watched it. It was entertaining. I don't want more. I'm done. Like
They're counting that somebody wants more. They're counting on
no,
that. By the way, here's a sad. Christopher Plummer, I think, died today. Right?
he did.
Yeah. He was
Sad.
great.
He
Knives Out.
was acting in the 50s
Yeah.
and doing some of his best work in the last decade.
Yeah. He was still fantastic.
Inspiring, you know.
Yeah.
No way. It's starring Nicolas Cage.
Starring Nick Cage. That's, by the way,
Okay,
that's
wait.
dead on.
Wait, I would watch that. That
Yeah.
changes.
By the way,
wait, 90% casting. No, they're right because I went
is
from
casting.
oh God, I will never watch that in a
so
million
now
years.
I'll watch it.
Oh, Nicolas Cage.
I'll watch it.
Oh.
And by the way, how do we know that Nicolas Cage is not really Tiger King? Have we ever seen them together?
That's
I
true.
think that's kind of a weak theory, John.
You think so?
Cage Nicolas Cage is multitudes. He's more than this guy.
He's multitude. Okay.
He's a
But
great
by the
artist.
way, that's perfect casting. I will watch that. I will watch Nick Cage playing Tiger, whatever his name is.
No, he's playing the tiger.
No.
That's what Sean said.
Playing the Tiger. Come on. Oh God. Okay.
Well, I've kind of run out of things to say. I mean, we can.
I was going to say,
This was
does
fun.
anybody have any random industry questions?
Oh yeah.
You never know. Or John, do you have a name to drop?
I did
That's
that already. I've already dropped a couple. Jamie and Chris Guest. Does Nick Cage have an Academy Award? Oh,
He does for what's it
Falcon.
called? Leaving Las Vegas or whatever, right?
Oh, when he gets drunk in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
I don't know what
With
that is.
Elizabeth Shue.
Not a great movie. I didn't think it
No.
aged well, but people
No.
freaked out about it over the time, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
I guess we'll
All right.
just see. Oh no, I do not have any more embarrassing stories.
Oh, I wish
I
we
put-
did have some.
I posted an embarrassing story somewhere else it's gone now. So that's that.
Oh.
Alexie,
Yeah.
you and I are running out of stories. All three of us, we're just barren.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
No, I'm starting
We gotta
to
go.
I'm like running out of the easy stories to tell. I'm starting to have to dig into the embarrassing ones like that one.
Mm.
Well, I'm looking forward to Cosmo. You guys are gonna love him. He'll have stories to tell, and he's
He's great.
Cosmo. I will say has really handled his approach to the business, to working with agents, managers, producers. He's remarkably well. I mean, almost without a false step. It's been it's been fantastic to watch him. He and I have been in touch for now years, and he's not only he's a fantastically talented writer, but he also understands the complexity of the movie business and how it operates. So that'll be fun to get into that next week.
Oh, and I wanted to mention what we're doing tomorrow. So if you're a member of our writers room, which is a Patreon thing, tomorrow we are doing Coffee Class Espresso edition. And we have started this new thing where we're going to read the first 5 pages of people's scripts aloud. It's going to be anonymous. You can send in your script and we will read the first 5 pages aloud so you can hear it and get some feedback. And it'll be fun. So if you're interested in that, check out the description.
And we're also doing that every Saturday moving forward. So
yes,
it's going to be a fun way to get your work read and hear what people think without knowing it's you.
Yeah. All right. Bye, everybody.
All right. Thanks, everybody. See you next week.